Hi, everyone. So happy to be here in virtual world talking to the Book Arts Guild. Thank you, Celine. I am very excited to talk to you guys today about my practice in printmaking, kind of how I ended up here in the Northwest, and just some of the things that I've been doing. So my name is Dana Harris Seeger. I have been an artist probably my whole life. I got my bachelor's in art from Anderson University in Anderson, Indiana, which unfortunately no longer has an art program. Sad. And my MFA from San Jose State University in San Jose, California. I was born and raised in El Granada, California, on the coast, sort of the Central Coast, Bay Area, and did some traveling around, but ended up there. Got married to a sculptor, Yori Seeger. So that's how we ended up um, kind of in that Bay area making art. Um, I so then in 2013, we started an art school and studio called the School of Visual Philosophy. Um, I have always had a passion for educating, and I wanted to be an art teacher since I was a little kid, and pursued art as fine art, studio art for my master's, mostly in printmaking and painting. And I did do a lot of teaching at the university. Go Spartans. I did a lot of teaching at the university level at San Jose State and community colleges, Monterey Peninsula College, and Yori taught at West Valley College. And so we love teaching, but we don't always love the administrative sort of aspect of it and trying to do things our way through a system. So we wound up making our own school. And it was kind of a challenge just because we're in Silicon Valley where there's a lot of focus on tech and there's a lot of money, but not a lot of money spent on art. But we got a lot of artists who wanted studios, and they wanted he's a sculptor, my husband's a sculptor, so we did a foundry and a forge and woodworking, and then I did the printmaking and painting, and for about 10 years we did that, and then started raising our family, and we decided that it was kind of a lot to do both. We were living about 45 minutes away from our studio, um, and it was kind of, we just needed a change of pace. We needed to spend more time with our kids and more time making art. So we decided to move to Poulsbo. And I can't believe we didn't do that sooner because I love it up here. I love how cool and refreshing it is. I love the water. We're into kayaking and boating and sailing, and raising our kids on the water. And it's really inspiring. I don't know if you'll notice, but a change in my artwork happened when we moved, and I focused a lot more on the landscape. So it's really inspiring being up here. And the studio that we started is actually still going. I was telling Celine this too. Um, so if you look up Visual Philosophy Studio, you'll see it still in San Jose. Still going strong. We gave it to one of our student studio artists, and he's taken off with it and grown it into a real community hub, which is awesome because that's what I think art is all about, is communicating and bringing people together. Um, so as an educator, I love talking about art. I love teaching people about art. And when we came here, I didn't know that it was, I mean, I kind of knew that it was artsy, Seattle area, but I didn't realize how this side of the sound is just so creative, and people support art and they buy art. And that was really a surprise, and a good surprise. So Muir and I both put our work up in a co-op gallery in Poulsbo, and we found Barn, which is the Bainbridge Artisan Resource Network. And because I just can't stop teaching, I started teaching there, said, I'll teach anything. And did some printmaking. I'm still doing some printmaking classes, bookbinding classes, screen printing. So anything they'll let me teach, I will teach there. I also do encaustic painting, and don't know if if I have any in my slides, but I do incorporate my printmaking into the paintings, because as the name of this program suggests, I love layers. So that is probably enough about me. I will share my screen and do a slideshow. Let's see, from the beginning. All right. Is this coming through loud and clear?
Yep, no, it sounds great.
All right. So, layers of print. How I use printmaking and artist books to tell my story. I gave a version of this presentation to an encaustic conference in Owen Sound, Ontario, early September. So we took a huge family trip across country, which was fun and tiring. But it gave me some inspiration to think about for what I wanted to present to you all. So everything that I do, whether it's printmaking, painting, it's all kind of mixed media, book arts. It's all mixed media, and it starts generally with layering. So this is just a sample of one of the prints that I've made, mixed media prints, and there's digital printmaking, there's solar plate intaglio, there's screen printing, and monotype. There I am at our studio in San Jose screen printing. And then on the right-hand side, there's just a little sample of a lino cut that I've done. And often I have these symbols, like you'll see the fan, things that repeat over and over again that I consider my vocabulary, just like storytelling. I mean, you guys are book artists, so you know the process of telling a story is really important, and kind of getting people interested in and hooked on what you're trying to say, what you're so that they can continue on the path. And so I use these symbols that are recognizable, often old-fashioned kind of vintage objects like fans and Bolex cameras, 16mm cameras, windmills, things that sort of harken back to another time that can be kind of nostalgic, that make people think about maybe the past. A lot of times they're rotating objects like the fan, because I consider the past kind of circular. So time is not necessarily linear, but that you can read a book from front to back or back to front, and or see it from the whole 360 view. So that's how I choose some of the objects uh, to as my vocabulary to tell the story. So here's some. Oops, go back. Sorry. Here are some of the types of methods that I use in printmaking, and I'll go through this, and I'm sure we'll have lots of time at the end for questions. But these are some of the things I teach at Barn also: screen printing or silk screen, encaustic monotype, mono printing, lino cut, etching, and lithography. And when I was at Anderson University, I fell in love with lithography because there was a whole litho studio and stones, and that was one of my passions, was lithography. And I still have presses at home, and I used to have 4 at our studio in San Jose, but I can only take 1 with me out here. But because I love drawing and combining the layers, lithography really lends itself well to that. The picture on the left is a sample of just a monotype that I'm working on, a plexiglass plate. And this is kind of how it starts to work its way into the books. Um, the prints will either end up framed or behind encaustic paint or layered in some way. Sometimes they end up as covers for books. Sometimes they end up cut up and folded. And I'll show you some samples of that. But I really, as I'm layering and printing, and I have a stack or multiple stacks of prints that are in different states of what I consider finished or like just in process. And if I feel like they kind of just go like a story meanders and um, like I'm meandering now. Um, Often I don't have a final idea of how I want these things to end up, but they will take on a life of their own. And when I cut them up or when I add more layers, they tell me how they want to be. Um, so a lot of the process is putting them away for a while and then taking them out and looking and deciding, choosing what I want to do next and how they want to be kind of utilized. Um, Binding it all together. See how clever I am. So this on the left, um, there's a sample of a little book that I was thinking about. A lot of my work has to do with home and what home means. As a second generation Baltic American, my grandparents were born in Latvia and Estonia, and my mom was born in the US. So ideas of home and where that is or what that is are really resonate with me. So this little simple shape I cut out of the cover and several pages of the book and layered some digital prints and some hand pulled prints in on a translucent paper to just kind of give the feeling of seeing through, maybe seeing back into time or seeing through what that means to be home or what home means. So this is a sample of another book that um, I started with a print, just like a, I don't know, 32 by 30 by 22 print, um, and cut it up and folded it. And then I wanted to have the trees be almost like a 360 view of the trees. And it's surprisingly hard. Like I'm sure you all know this too, but like just making a print is pretty easy. I mean, layering up a flat piece of paper, pretty easy. But trying to figure out structures that work and the like trying to make it look all the same, measuring, that's a whole other ball game. So a lot of even though these books look simple, a lot of time and effort and planning and redoing goes into them. Even down to like the colors of the threads and do I keep the decal of the paper or do I not keep the decal? I mean, endless endless choices. So there's some screen prints that I cut up and folded. There's digital prints on the translucent vellum. Um, the covers have a fan. I don't know if I showed the covers, but have a reduction screen print of a fan, one of the you know objects that I use. Um, and it's called Fanning the Woods, about humans kind of impact on the environment and how we consider that or don't consider that. And I love books, prints that you can hang them on a wall, paintings you can hang on a wall and you can study them and you can look at them. But there's something about holding an object in your hand that I'm sure you all know all too well, that it's there's just something different when you can sit with it and you have to physically turn the pages or manipulate it in some way. There's a relationship that builds. And I've always tried to figure out how to get my audience or get viewers to be more involved. I had a show in 2022 at the Triton Museum and it was interactive. So the pieces, I had a whole wall of paintings that when you touched a symbol below them, a projection, it triggered a projection onto one of the paintings. And I was trying to integrate the audience, but also get them to be involved in kind of the process of making the work and deciding um, how it went um, and I think books really do a good job of that. So this whole bunch of pictures is all that same book with that little house shape that I cut out. Um, and the little windows you can see I glued. I think I sandwiched the vellum in between the pages. It's a lithograph originally with a screen print. And I mean, the way that you can just cut up a print and turn it into a book fragments the image. And that's really exciting to me too, because when I create the prints, it might start as a whole image, a whole windmill or something that's concrete or whole. And then I'll cover up areas or obscure parts or print over parts because I mean, life is like that, right? There's pieces that come and go and you can't remember things wholly. And there's one, oh, a flash of something will come back into your mind or something will remind you of something else. So that's also really powerful is the way that an image can be both seen as a whole when you stretch it out as an accordion, or you can fragment it and have just parts show up. Um, and because it's a three-dimensional shape rather than a two-dimensional piece on a wall, it has more of an ability to kind of change and fluctuate based on how the viewer or how the handler is working through it. This was an exciting project that I've been working on for 5 years, 6 years. This is a suite of prints, lithographs, black and white lithographs that I did with one of my mentors, my lithography mentor, Tom Golio, back in San Jose. And he's a lithographer, and he had this idea to let's make these prints. He said, "You draw them, I'll print them. We can print them together, and then I want to put them in a like a portfolio case as a whole set." I was like, "Sure, okay." Um, it had to have been more than like 10 years because I had my daughter and she's almost 11. So it took 3 kids later. We have 5 books bound and published. Um, but this is a large, it's 22 by 30 because the biggest sheet of paper is as a full sheet of Reeves BFK. So this is a large portfolio. And I was oh, excuse the dogs. Sorry. Oh, I was telling Celine that it's hard to find a binder. Like we were really trying to find people to help us bind these boxes because they had to be a specific like clamshell, but then we needed a separate area for the different prints. And so he ended up coming up with this sort of system, bound it in this silk and created this it's a lithograph with letterpress, and then we did all the letterpress he did all the letterpress pieces. So this is a half sheet that's the print is a half sheet, and then the forward is also a 22 by 15 sheet of paper. Oh my gosh, sorry. So this whole suite of prints was right at the time when I was having twins. So it's all about kind of balancing and defining what it means to be a mother, be a person, be a twin. I'm an identical twin myself. So they're all incorporate scales in some way, which is why the cover had the fish scale. And it's really, I love sharing this book in person because it's quite a thing when you open up this huge case and you have all these prints that you take out, and they're all black and white except for one 8-color lithograph, which I'm not sure if I included in here, but it was quite a labor of love, as children are. This was, oops, sorry, did I go too far? There we go. Um, this was one of the, it's just a piece of one of the larger ones, the 22 by 30 pieces, from a sonogram of the twins in utero. And I was thinking about macro and micro and how we are, we're kind of beings that are start out tiny, but in a universe, like a huge universe. So that was how that one. And it's a litho it's a dual tone, so there's two blacks. And that is the end of the presentation. Sorry. That is the end of the slides, but it doesn't have to be the end of the story. Here are my, I can include all these things in the chat and stop sharing so that we can, you guys can ask questions and things. Sorry, had to lock the dogs out.
This is Lee. I should turn my screen back on. I have a question about fanning the woods.
Yeah.
There were two things in that I was curious about. You mentioned that you do digital, that you had digital prints on vellum, and I
Mhm.
was wondering how you found to print on vellum. I mean, what are you using to print on vellum?
I have a laser, like a home laser printer, and
Oh,
I
so it's
got,
pretty straightforward.
yeah, it's super straightforward. Barn has a inkjet digital printer or Canon inkjet printer, and some of the color ones were done on that. And because I'm a screen printer, I often use film, translucent film, and print the like the exposure, the transparent positives on that. But most of those were just printed on a laser printer with specific laser translucent vellum. And I like the translucent, not the transparent, because it has that sort of soft, smoky, I don't know, fuzzy look.
Whose vellum do you use?
Um, it's made by, or I get it from a screen printing supply, Anthem screen printing, I
Hmm.
think. Yeah.
And they provide the paper?
Yeah. I buy the paper from them online, and then I just
Huh.
use my printer at home and print out the photographs that I take of the trees around uh, my backyard.
And so then you also mentioned that you had done reduction screen printing on for the cover.
Yeah.
And I know of what reduction printing is from a linoleum cut, where
Hmm.
you start with big areas of color and print down until there's just a little teeny bit left. But I think with screen printing, you have to start with a little teeny bit and then expand up, right? I mean, it's the reverse process.
No, you start with a large, I'm trying to find a sample. It's basically the same. It's almost exactly the same. You just do I have a sample? Well, here's a sample of the reduction. Let me share this. Share that. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
So it's basically the same process. It's just that wherever you want the white, instead of carving away, you use a like a waterproof mask and you just paint the screen where you want the negative areas and then print the first color, and then that's already blocked out. So then you keep painting the areas. So I would paint everything that I wanted to stay this yellow color and paint, basically this is how it would end up as the blue, and layer that over, and you just keep reducing the amount of screen area that the ink gets squeezed through.
But it's still additive because you have
It's
to add the,
You're adding the
the
negative.
mask. Yeah.
You're adding the mask, yeah. So you're painting out the negative areas. So it's kind of like a lino where you, instead of carving away the negative areas, you're just masking them out.
Okay, so you do still start with the big areas of
Yeah.
color and then work down to the smaller areas.
Hmm.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I've never seen that or even you know, I've seen people do the film and you could never do it with the film that you cut away.
Yeah.
Screen printing, it has to have your hand input of the putting the mask on
Yeah,
because
because once it's there, you just leave it and then you just keep painting.
oh, very interesting. Sounds
Yeah,
kind of fun. Are you going to
it
do
is
that in
fun.
your class at Barn?
I did have one scheduled, but not enough people signed up.
Oh, everybody, come
They were
on, let's
probably
try this screen
scared.
printing technique.
Yeah.
Now, on your other, I don't know the name of the book about the one about home with the windows in it.
That
Um,
was I think it was just called Going Home.
oh, there you
Yeah.
go. So talk a little bit about again, technically how you put those windows in. Are they all lined
Yeah.
up? Did you just stack it up and cut it by hand one time? Or I really liked how you glued some of the pages shut with the vellum in between to make the
Yeah.
window.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get back to it. When I where are you? Go back to there. Do, okay, and slideshow. Oops, sorry. I'm gonna go through here. Okay. Um, so because of the way that I cut the book, it's like one of those meander books where you cut it and then you fold it, and there's a couple
Hmm.
pages that aren't um accordion, they're kind of like flapped over. So like page one, two, three, four and five, they were actually flapped this way. And what I
Oh,
did
because of the
was,
meander.
yes, so I just cut both
Oh.
of those, glued them together. Well, I cut the windows, stuck the vellum in, and then glued them together. So they become one page,
Hmm.
and then you don't see they sandwich the thing in between. Yeah.
And do the other pages have windows too?
Just the ones that are stuck together. Yeah. So like you can see it looks like every other page, the ones that don't
Right.
have the angles, um, end
Well,
up
you can kind of
being,
see that in the lower right picture.
yeah.
Oh, got it.
Hmm.
I really like that idea. And that's a great idea to use the meander style, take advantage of those folded over pages and put
Yeah.
something in between.
I mean, sometimes it's nice to kind of have it open and flopping, but to make it more of an accordion, to keep it structured like that, I glued them and then thought, well, why couldn't I cut a little window in and hide the hide the clear piece?
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me, now that I've hogged all the question time, is there anybody else that have a, you're gonna have to unmute yourself and shout it out.
Yeah, shout it.
Not hearing any questions. Well, tell us about what are you working, what's your current project? Or do you have a
Current,
current project?
yeah, I'm taking a class actually from it's an online class through Fiber Arts Take Two. Have you guys heard of that? It's cool. They do fibers and books and painting. printmaking. So it's a book artist out of Australia. What is her name? And she's I'm doing all kinds of different book forms, and because I love layers, we're doing a cascade book. So it's kind of like a hanging, you can hang it up on the wall, but the different layers are actually physical layers, that one is smaller and then it gets or longer and longer and longer as you go into the back. And it's bound kind of like not like a stab, but just at the top. Um, and so I'm working on that and trying to figure out, because I like hanging and I like 2D, but I also want that interaction. So how do you get people to actually touch a piece on the wall? That's always been a challenge. You're taking that class too. What's it called and what's her name? I can look it up, but um
If someone asked if you could share
fiber
that
art.
information because it,
Yes, Unbound. It's it's called Unbound. Terry Hartnell. I will get her information up on the site because they have, and I'll give you the website because they do a lot of great
Terry
classes.
what?
Terry Hartnell.
Hartnell?
Hartill, sorry, Hartill. Let me write it in the chat. Terry Hartill. She's she Australian or New Zealand? I think she might be from New Zealand. She's got a great accent, so it's very engaging to watch. Tony, thank you. Tony Hartill. Yes. Tony Hartill. Unbound is the name of the class. But Fiber Arts Take Two is the, I don't know, overarching website that hosts all these classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Okay.
cool. It's a self-paced class, but she does live Q&As and stuff like that. So as you're taking it, you can ask her questions and
have you worked in a fabric book before?
sort of, but not really. I do love fabric and sewing and knitting and all that too. I have an abundance of hobbies. Um, but I have done fabric layers and light boxes and things like that. Um, but just finding new structures and new ideas for orienting all the prints and things is really exciting. When I discovered encaustic painting, that was like because it has all the translucency of the layers that I was looking for. And then you can also do that on paper. You can use monotype. You can put the wax. It's just beeswax and mixed with Damar resin, just a little bit of Damar resin, and it creates a medium that's centuries, oh, actually millennia old, and you can put paint in, oil paint or pigment, and paint with it. Let me see if I can find a piece. Um, and then you can also use like I said, monotype and layer and stitch, and it has a certain softness to it because it sort of I don't know, dulls the here's one of the, I'm gonna put this up on let's share that. It's thinking. Oops, can you guys see that? So that's
Yeah.
just a little encaustic monotype that I did with some stencils and painting on this sort of fibery paper. But you can do it on any paper, and the more thin or the thinner and more transparent the paper is, then the wax embeds in it and makes it really translucent. And it's great for adding to books too because it's archival. It has sort of can have like a sticky texture if it gets warm, but it embeds into the paper and doesn't really ever go away. As you know, if you've dripped wax on it, So that is really fun to play with as one of the layers, and several of the books I have that as an element
So
in
you,
that.
I was going to ask you about that. You said at the beginning that you will layer the acoustic with a monotype or a colograph or a lithograph. So you're doing those just one on top of each other?
Yeah, let me see if I have a sample. But I will often start with a print or even printing on the wood panel itself or the canvas panel, and then layering the encaustic wax medium and pigment over the top of that, because I just can't get enough layers. So let's see if there's one here.
Well, I'm interested in the fact that you're layering all these different mediums because
Yeah,
I mean I've seen lots of mixed media layers, but it's
yeah.
normally just paper and paint and acrylic medium, and the idea that first you're taking a lithograph and then doing something to it and then putting wax. It's just an interesting idea.
Yes, there's oh here, let me see if there's this one. Okay, I'll show you this one. Share. Right, so this is pretty clear, I think. I started with a jelly plate print, gel print, um, deep in the back collage, and then some encaustic medium, which is the sort of milky covering, and then there's a block print of this scale thing that is like a black print, and then more wax, and some of the blue on the bottom and the red is actually pigmented wax paint. And then I finished by adhering. I coated these little printed papers in these like origami papers in wax, and then just ironed with a little tiny iron. You can stick them on, it's like glue. You iron them onto the wax surface and it just sticks. It kind of fuses to itself. So this probably has like four or five layers of print and medium and paint and collage.
And is this the scales? Is that one of the cuts that you did? Like you
Yeah.
showed the.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just a lino cut that I did on I think it's 4x5 or 4x6. And then the
Oh, so
gel
this is
print.
quite a large piece then.
No, four by
No?
six inches. The little scale is only 4x6. It's like an 8x10
Oh,
inch.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm gonna
Sandy
cut that.
posted a long question wanting to know about the School of Visual Philosophy.
Philosophy.
Can you talk more about your previous studio
Yeah.
space? Was it a place where artists could rent, or did you offer classes? Was it a membership model? She
Yeah.
wants to hear more about it.
Yeah. So Yori and I started 2013. He was teaching at West Valley College, and a lot of the students there in the foundry wanted to keep working on their projects, and they wanted him to have a space that they could work. They would rent studios. So basically, we had people asking us to rent a studio space that they could also sort of sublease. And they all signed up before we even had a building. They were like, wherever you go, we'll go with you. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we can't lose. So so we looked and sort of became entrepreneurs and found a building and became business owners. It was actually two different business models. We started as a for-profit and the studio rentals. So we started with about 18 studios, just separate, basically cubicles that were 6 feet high and or 8 feet high, and had a door people could rent. And that stayed a for-profit, because we figured if we put all our tools and all our work into it, then we didn't want it to be given away if it failed, like as a nonprofit. But then we started teaching classes, and I felt like a nonprofit was something that could live on past maybe or beyond what we had anticipated and envisioned. So I did all the paperwork for a nonprofit, and we got nonprofit status, which allowed us to um, get donations and get grants and things like that. Um, and San Jose is pretty good about supporting arts. I mentioned before that people don't really buy art in Silicon Valley. So Yor and I had a hard time kind of being professional artists, but teaching was really popular because everybody wants to do something on the weekends or with their hands to get away from their screens. So we did a lot of team buildings, and for things like Apple and Zoom, a little company that we didn't really know anything about until we're like, what? Zoom? Okay. 2020. And oh, now everyone knows about Zoom. Yeah. So there were all the tech companies, Adobe, like everybody did a team building with us. And I think that our protege still does that. Wyatt Baxter runs it now. So we had, sorry, back up. So we had the space, and we had studio artists renting space from us. We had facilities that they could also use with their rental. Included in their studio rental were presses. I had couple litho presses. I had a etching press, screen printing press, dark room area. Yori had a blacksmithing forge. He had a foundry where he cast bronze, wood shop, things like that that people could use. And it was basically all the tools that we had collected or that people had donated to us. And then with the classes and with the membership, the studio memberships, we wound up growing beyond our first little space. And so we moved into a larger space on the Alameda in San Jose and got, I think, 30 studios. And that's where it is right now. And they do classes, they do events. I mean, we did a whole bunch of events, like hosted political events for local politicians and local groups, all kinds of organizations. It really was a hub for the community. I even became the Alameda Business Association president, which an artist I never thought I would ever do. So that was kind of funny, just how art can weave its way into everything. Does that answer your question? Kind of. Yeah, and they're still going. So our when we left, we just decided that it was too much for us and our family. So we sort of gave it to the next generation. And he's taken it he just kept it going, and they do classes and team buildings and events. So it's fun to see that it's still going.
And who came up with the name?
Yori, my husband, was in school at San Francisco Art Institute, and he had this, I think he heard one of his friends say art is like a visual philosophy because you understand, it's a way to understand the world, it's a language that you see visually. And he was like, yes, I'm going to use that one day. So when we're thinking about a name, we're like, is it too esoteric? Like, is anyone going to understand what this is about? But yeah, it didn't really matter because it's a conversation starter, and everybody who walked by the studio was like, what is that? So it's a way to say, art is a language, and it's a way that we communicate visually. So thinking about the world in a new way, that's how we came up with the name.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna see. Does anybody else have any last questions for
No.
Dana tonight?
Yeah. It is interesting how many people around here I run into from the Bay Area or who have lived in the Bay Area or somewhere around California.
will you try again to do some silk screen printing classes at the barn?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I plan to do Sarah, the fiber arts lead, is very interested too. We're cooking up some traditional classes, but also ways that we can use it for like dyeing fabric or using
Yeah.
masks, you know, in different ways. So it's
Yeah, good.
yeah.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. And I will include my website here. I can just go. I generally update um my classes on that page, and you can join my mailing list, and I'll notify you the mailing list of things that I'm doing, like shows or classes and things like that. Talks.
All right, great. I'm gonna
Seeger, okay.
Oh, I didn't.
stop the recording.